Let's see. Questions keep rolling. I'm hurting and didn't really do anything. Can stress really cause that much pain? I've had more discussions about this in the last 4 months, rightfully so. We're all in a place where stress has changed a tremendous amount. And in the last, 4 months, and even people who don't stress, I've talked to who have had like physical experiences of stress, some, hospitalizations. And these are people who just don't deal with stress on a normal basis. And we're getting the question, like, how much does stress actually affect our body? And I feel like it's one of those things that gets talked about a lot by people, like, look, don't stress, it's bad for you. But there's never any follow-up to that. There's never like, okay, here's what you need to do for that. It's just like, don't do it. Just figure that part out. It's not like, hey, I'm out of shape, so I know that I need to exercise a little bit more. With stress, we don't have that follow-up to how do we actually do something about that. And when we're talking about stress and the effects on the body, what stress does really is kind of increases your fight or flight response. So when we feel stress, when we're experiencing stress, what that does is stimulates the immune system and the nervous system to get us ready to fight, because our body thinks that it is being attacked. It thinks it's under attack. And so that causes this big release of something called corticotropin releasing hormone. Don't worry about that, but basically stress hormones. And so the hypothalamus starts flooding the body with these stress hormones. And what that does is kind of lowers your immune system, because your body's saying, hey, right now is not the time to fight things off. Right now is the time to survive. And if we keep that going for a while and we continue to have this chronic stress on us, that's going to end up lowering the immune system and actually end up making you sick and stopping your body from healing. So when we start looking at stress and anxiety, we know 100% that people with higher stress and anxiety have and experience more pain. So they've done studies. They had this wonderful 10-year study done by a woman, Anna Bergenheim, I believe. And what she found was over 10 years in fibromyalgia patients, the biggest predictor for pain, the biggest predictor for decreasing pain over 10 years was the patient's ability to handle stress and anxiety. The biggest predictor out of everything physical, out of everything mobility, all the muscle testing, everything that they could do, the biggest predictor was stress and anxiety. So it's a really important part. And there's really two parts of the answer to the question when we tell people like stress is bad for you. The two parts to that is, one is, can we experience less chronic stress? And that's what most people are talking about whenever they're saying like stress less. Can we experience less stressful situations? Some of that we don't have any control over. We don't have any control over those phone calls. We don't have any control over the environment. We don't have any control over any of those things. And so that creates some problems, because if you don't have control over it and you're trying to change it, that creates more stress. But there are techniques to get your body to handle that stress better. The other part of this is, can we teach our body to have a stronger anti-stress response? One of my favorite quotes is like, intentional stress now teaches your body to handle unintentional stress later better. And so we really want to do both of those things. We want to work on handling the stress we're experiencing now and make sure that we're doing a good job of that. And then we want to teach our body to get stronger at managing stress whenever it comes on. So there's a lot of ways to do some of that stuff. When we're talking about handling stress better, I think there's quite a few things that we can do that help our body to de-stress. One of them is breathing. We talked about the 4-7-8 breathing method last week. And in fact, I wanted to show you all this. There's a free app called Oak. Can y'all see that? So this is the Oak app. And if you download that, this is free. And if you go to the deep, calm breathing and begin that, it has this really nice little visual representation of it, so that you don't actually have to think about counting in your head. And I think that's very helpful. I think if you are really just watching this and following the directions, it helps a lot with just taking you through those breaths and taking you through those exercises. So I really recommend that. It's free. Click that, you watch it. And in fact, you know what? That's my health challenge for y'all today. Do one round of 4, 7, 8 breaths. You don't need to get the app, but lay down, do 4, 7, 8 breaths in a row. For those of you who weren't here and don't remember that, what you do is you breathe in for 4, hold for 7 seconds, and then slowly let out for 8 seconds. So that's why it's nice to have the visual, and you do 4 of those in a row. So that's my challenge for you today. I want y'all to go through that. So the other part of this is, can we start to do some things that helps our brain process stress better? My favorite thing for this, and the research shows this, is floating. Floating is this absolutely amazing stress reliever, not just physically. You don't just feel it, but for your nervous system and for your brain. And that's why we got the float tank, because I was like, that was a self-serving thing. I was like, look, I want this for me. And if we can provide this to the people of Acadiana and everyone can do this together, I think it's a really good thing. And so I want to talk a little bit about floating, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the different effects that floating can have. So Chris, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to Tea with Dr. D. You got some tea?
Oh man, I'm good to go. I got my tea. It's ready to go.
I like it. Is that tea coffee?
No, it's actually the Herbalife tea.
Okay. So. All right. I like that. I didn't mention that. I'm drinking like a little chaga coffee and lion's mane tea concoction this morning. So, but yeah, the floating thing, when I started that, my first few of them were for a bit of a like almost like a clarity thing. I was trying to think more while I was in there, and for me, I found that it was a little bit difficult for me to go in and try to do something. But tell me, like, what got you interested in floating, and how did that come about? Where did you first hear about it?
I actually first heard about it through social media, and that's actually what led me to you, and how I ended up at Acadiana Pain and Performance. Was I heard a podcast, and then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I saw you post something, or you may have actually even been the one that posted the link to the podcast. I believe it was Joe Rogan's podcast about floating, and he has his own float tank. And I was like, man, if it's cool enough for this guy, maybe it's something I should look at, because I was looking for something to do. And so that's what kind of led me to do float for the first time.
Nice. So, like, when you went in to do that first one, were you looking for something specific? Were you trying to, I guess, achieve something out of that?
I mean, I didn't. And my expectations were, I was just looking for something to help. At the time, I was in a high stress environment with my job and had a lot going on in my life. And I was like, maybe this is something that can help. But I didn't really know what to expect. And I was just like, hey, this is something I've heard about. Let me see, investigate more, and maybe go try it out.
Yeah, one of the big things that I tell people, and that I made the mistake of, was I was looking for, like, I was trying to force the outcome. I was trying to force the effects of it, so to speak, where I went in and I wanted this big change. And the beautiful thing about floating is, like, you get in there and, everything shuts down. All the signals in your body start to shut down. And so your brain has all this extra energy that it gets to use to do whatever it needs to do to consolidate information. If we've been learning, if we've been very stressed, your brain gets to use that time to kind of deal with these stressors and actually kind of process them, instead of what happens for a lot of people, where we get stressed, we have this stressful situation, we get the response, and then we just kind of put that off to the side, but our brain never actually goes through and processes that stressor. But you can't force it. Like, you can't actually go in and make your brain do it. Your brain just knows what it needs to do when you get in there. You just have to get out of the way and kind of surrender to that, whatever your brain needs in that moment. So I think you may have like just kind of stumbled into the right way of thinking about it. So when you started getting into it, what were the first things that you noticed? Did you notice a stress change?
Oh, absolutely. I have to compliment your staff because they explained the process very well my first time. And of course, that first one is unique because, like your staff informed me, it's going to be weird because you've never done it before, so you're trying to figure it out. So I didn't. Like you said, my expectation was let's try this out, and it was definitely an interesting experience for the first one. But the thing is I continued to do it, and that was the best thing. I think for me, it's just being able to just stop and tune out the world for an hour was just amazing because it just seems to give you that ability, which we have trouble doing. I have trouble doing. It's go, go, go. I'm the kind of person that's always doing something. And then I'm on top of that, I'm very ADD. So it's hard for me to just stop doing something for a while. And this actually forced me to do that. So it was amazing.
Yeah, it's funny because we talk about it a lot. The people who have the most trouble in the float tank hour, like when they're in there, are the people that are like me and you. They always need that next thing to do. We're constantly going, we're constantly moving, we're constantly trying to do more things. We have a little bit of that ADD tendency, and we're really trying to do a lot of things. And in the float, it's hard for people like that to shut down. But that's who gets the most benefit outside of it, for that 2 weeks after that float. Even if that hour is kind of tough for them to like bring things down, they get the most benefit later, after that hour of kind of forcing the brain and the nervous system to kind of shut down and bring some of the stress levels down, get all the hormone production and nervous system back into balance, so to speak. Was that your experience those first few?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what ended up happening is when I started to do it every couple of weeks, I think that was what helped, was the consistency, was actually just starting to do it more. So I think I was doing what is twice a month, which every 2 weeks was just perfect. And not only was it helping me stop what I was doing, defocus, de-stress, and really let my body, naturally heal and do those things. But on top of that, there was the added benefits of I could see a difference in my sleep. I could see a difference in my body gosh, I look forward to it because those next 3 or 4 nights, sleep is just unbelievable because you finally let your body stop and smell the roses, so to speak, and your body's like, oh my God, you actually stopped for a few minutes, and so it starts to kind of recycle your body, and it's just an amazing feeling. And, I've continued to do that, and it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, for those of y'all who aren't familiar with the float tank, it's basically like a giant hot tub that you step in. That's got like 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt in it. So you float, no matter who you are, you're gonna float effortlessly, and the water warms up to the same exact temperature as your skin. So once you get in there and kind of get comfortable, for me, it's almost like your body senses just melt away. What's your explanation of that whenever you tell people about it, Chris?
It's hard to just describe the feeling until you do it, but you hit it right on the head. It's almost like you can just release and let everything go for a few minutes, and your body's like, your body just kind of lets everything go. And when you're in that float, I guess it's kind of like a zero gravity float type thing because you can't sink, and you really just let your body go and give in to the stress and just let it float, let yourself float. Your body just, it just kind of, it stops, like I said, and it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we started to add it, we started to dive into like what does the actual data say? And so they have something called a meta-analysis, which is basically where researchers go and pull all of the research and study all of the research as this big collective study, so to speak. So it makes this big study. So they did this huge meta-analysis on like 27 float studies. And what they found was that floating regularly, people who floated consistently had reported lower stress levels. They had lower levels of cortisol, like down to normal levels, even in stressed individuals. They had lower blood pressure and reported more satisfaction in life activities or life events. I forget how they worded that, but like, so it's nice to see, you know, when we put like, hey, look, I feel better. That's wonderful. I get in there, I get to shut down, but to actually put your brain and nervous system in that environment so that all of the stressors that are dealing with us, which like, I mean, me and you have talked about this, Chris, like the last 4 months have been, it's just different for everyone. And so, you know, when we get in that environment and we actually like let the nervous system, oh, okay, I get to shut down. I don't have to be running at red line this whole time. I can kind of calm down a little bit and relax. Man, I come out of that and I'm like you, like the deep sleep that I get that first night is the best sleep I'll have until 2 weeks later, whenever I get to do it again. So, but it's nice to see whenever like the data comes in there, because you know your story is amazing. Like, hey, look, I started doing this, and I mean, how long have you been? When was your first float? Do you remember?
It's been, Lord, I think it was last year. So it's been probably 6, 8 months, or maybe even longer. I don't know. It's probably getting close to a year since I did my first float.
What's have you gone like a month or two without it? Have you dropped out of it at all?
Yeah, that was, well, I guess when everything hit, you know, COVID and then change of career and all this stuff happened. And then all of a sudden, no, everybody was shut down for a while. But up until that point, I was going pretty regularly, at least once a month. So,
yeah, during the holidays. And then I'd like to hear what you thought whenever it was taken away from you for a little while during the holidays, which is when I would need it the most, but my schedule just got pretty busy. And so I had like probably a 6 or 8 week time from like December to January where I didn't float. I kept like having it on my schedule and then would pop out of it. And then like I got to maybe mid-January and I was like, I will never do this again. Like I will never go that long again without floating. Cause I was like, just little things are stressing me now. I'm experiencing that. My sleep's not as good, but did you notice any major change whenever you kind of had that whatever it ended up being month or two where it was taken from you?
yeah, I mean, I was like, you know, because I reached out to you. I was like, man, what? Or is this float back open? What are we doing? I was like, man, I haven't been in a couple months. I was like, my body was just like missing it. It was just, I mean, I equate it. I mean, I don't even know if this is a good example or not, but, you know, I guess, you know, because I don't know, but like I said, I equate it to just like a good drug or something. You just want it, you know, you feel that you realize your body hasn't had this your whole life and you get it, introduce it to it. And it's like, your body's like, hey, you're finally doing what I need you to do. I need you to go back and do that. Don't stop.
Yeah, I mean, so like whenever that stress, like we don't make good decisions under stress. I think if we're in this constant fight or flight, and we are trying to think and make decisions during that, we just don't. It just doesn't. That's not how our body works. It's in this like survival mode where all of this cortisol is built up. Everything is kind of, you know, affecting us to a higher level. We can't really think well with that. So for you to kind of go from where you started and then kind of go through some career changes and stuff and seemingly from the outside do that pretty smoothly and with ease, do you feel like that was harder? That would have been harder had you not been kind of doing some of this stuff to handle stress?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel it would have been harder. And like I said, just keep continuing to do it. Just keeps your body in check, and it just makes you forces you to really just stop and give your body that hour or two break, you know, that you need. And then obviously because you do that, the next few days, you kind of do slow your pace down a little bit. You sleep better. You get that, you know, you get that sound sleep, which makes your body, which kind of rejuvenates your body as well. So I think it's just, there's nothing but benefit from it. I mean, I've not seen any negative and have nothing but benefits from doing this. And like I said, I miss it when I took that break, so I'm ready to get back at it. I need to go now.
Well, I know you got a few things to do, so you can't float just yet. But yeah, is there any other things you would tell people about like kind of floating in general? Certainly, whenever it pertains to kind of handling their stress, like if you have a friend who's like, "Look, man, I'm dealing with stress right now that is affecting me." What's your pitch to them? What's your little elevator pitch on that?
And I'll give you the one that I've given many people. I said, look, and it's similar to what you told me. It was, you know, we put our bodies through a lot of stress. We do it, and it's bad. And I said, you really need to try something. And I said, if you're going to try something and do something different, I recommend you go get in a float tank and try it. And yes, I always give them the spiel about how, look, you've got to do it more than once. If you do it the first time, it is going to be odd. It's going to be a different thing for you. But I promise if you go back and do it a couple times, your body will thank you. Your body will absolutely 100% thank you. Because I know when I started, I was 100% at a maximum stress level, and my body was literally just about to shut down just from pure running it too hard. And it was amazing for me to be able to do this and find this, and I'm grateful for it. So I just tell people, go try it out. It may not be for you, but at least try it and do yourself a favor and at least do multiple sessions.
I love it. I love it. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was glad to be here. Enjoy it.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, thanks.